What's up, guys? Tragic Reptiles here. So I wanted to show kind of like what we were talking about tonight, and that is the Argus monitor. These guys are amazing. I absolutely love these guys. These guys have an amazing feature to them to where they stand up on their hind legs and completely stand straight up to look and kind of observe where they at and kind of what's going on around them. Super sweet with the proper enclosure, food, temperature, all that good stuff in proper care to handling these guys. We do have a special guest tonight that specializes in Argus monitors. So we are going to bring him on here. But first and foremost, we have...
It's me! How's it going, everyone?
How's it going, man? So we know that you have a couple Argus monitors. Is that right?
Yep, I got my pair. The male actually came from Joe, who is incredible guy, incredible Argus monitor.
Sweet. And you have two, right?
Yeah, I've got a pair.
Two. And roughly about how old are they?
Female's a year and 2 months, and the male is probably a little under a year.
Awesome. And they are not with you. They're at the other...
They're in the reptile building, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, cool. I just got the quince in the reptile room, and even the quince will start needing a bigger enclosure, and it'll end up going over there.
Right. Okay. Well, awesome, man. Glad to have you. And we're going to bring on the notorious Dylan.
Oh.
What's happening, man? How are you?
I'm good. I'm looking forward for tonight.
Awesome. So I know that you don't have any Argus monitors, but you're definitely down for, a little bit about them, but you are really trying to kind of get a better grasp on understanding these guys, as am I. I'm always open to new material and new information on these guys, as well as any other monitors. So glad to have you on, man. And, let's pick up some new tips. So I have got somebody very special tonight. Like I said, specializes in Argus monitors. I bring on the great Joe.
How you doing, everybody?
How are you, man? Glad to have you.
Thank you. Glad to be here. Appreciate
Awesome.
it.
Cool. So we have got a ton of questions. I know I do. Really looking to kind of dive into this here. So I'm going to start off first and foremost. What in the hell got you into Argus monitors?
I was just always. It was that one that's just that one species that I've always wanted, and it's actually the first monitor species that I ever got into, and it's stuck ever since, and they haven't gotten old with me yet.
That's awesome. So what really kind of like drove you to like the Argus specifically? Because there are so many different types of monitors out there. I mean, you got Nile, Savannahs, ornate. You've Ackies, you got everything all across the board. What really kind of drove you to the Argus?
Their build, I love their build, especially with the males. Their color and pattern is just different from anything else.
Yeah.
The fact that they tripod the way they do.
Yeah.
You can't beat that. But honestly, the majority of it is their intelligence. They can give you a run for your money, as far as the way they think and the way they process. And they're just, to me, they're like as close to a raptor as you get,
Mm-hmm. That is so awesome. Dakota, you got anything to add to that, man?
No, man. Argus is, I don't know. I always wanted an Argus. Of course, with Joe, I probably hassled the guy for about a year before I actually bought something for him. So great customer service just right off the bat. But
I enjoyed the hassle, man.
But yeah, as soon as I got that male, I think it was like 3 weeks in, he had the pair, and I bought the male, and I think like a week and a half even of owning this thing. I was like, this guy's amazing. You know what? I want that female now. And he's like, oh, I already sold it. So unfortunately, I had to go another route to proclaim the other gal. But yeah, they are by far my favorite monitor species. The tripoding's amazing. Feeding is always a great time as long as you don't get bit. That's the only downside, it seems. But it's just incredible. Like you said, just like velociraptors, they're just nuts.
So did you get Dakota? Did you get both of your Arguses from Joe, or did you get one?
No, I just got the male. Unfortunately, he had that probable pair at the time, but the female sold like what was it, like within a couple of days after the male. Yeah, so I ended up. I don't actually. I think SoCal Scales or something like that is where I got the female. She was about roughly the same age as the male, so it was pretty much luck.
So was the one that you didn't get from Joe, was that a captive bred, or was that like farm bred?
No, captive bred. I think most Arguses at this point are all captive bred. I haven't seen too many imports, if any.
Okay. Joe, did you? So you, full understanding, you breed these Argus monitors.
Yep.
So how many do you have?
Oh, he hits us with the I gotta think about it.
Well, I just sold a couple, and I sold adults too. I think I'm somewhere around the area about 10 right now.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Plus,
Like
both
10
my partners
breeding
have a
pairs?
Yeah.
Or
Pardon?
10 breeding pairs?
No, I've got 3 breeding females right now, and then my partners both have females that are right there. Actually, the one's already bred, and the other one's getting close. She actually just had her first cycle of eggs, so they're getting ready.
Hey, before we actually get let's talk a little about the business partner. It's Reptidons, right?
Yep, Reptidons. Awesome.
Yeah,
dude.
let's get a little into that. Like, I know you guys do a bunch of stuff. The monitors are just, the creme de la creme, but I think I had him send me a list for a shout out I did with you guys, and you guys are doing a bunch of stuff. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah.
He does pretty much. I'm pretty much sticking with the monitors. We've just gotten to corn snake projects and stuff like that. I've got a couple albino corn snakes king snakes that he produced. Doing white tree frogs next. That's what we're getting ready to start breeding. Roughnecks, black roughnecks. We got a pair of them. She just had her first cycle, the female, which is actually our other partner at Lonnie's Lizards. So there's 3 of us actually doing this together. Hoping to get black throats going. Jessel at Reptidons. I mean, he's got geckos, he's got boas.
He's got a little bit of everything over there.
He's got everything. I mean, he's got a 1,500 square foot house, and he has no furniture. It's just nothing but reptiles. He's got a bed in a bedroom, and that's his domain. The rest of it's all for the lizards. I mean, the dude's he's totally legit with this, and we're actually breeding carpet pythons this year.
Oh, that's awesome.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, that's up your alley.
It's a little bit of everything.
I'm definitely going the same route. I can't stick with just one thing, apparently.
No.
Of course, we got the tokays, the croc skinks, gargoyles, a couple of new Caledonian stuff, and then a couple of different monitor species that we're trying our luck with in 2021. But so, I definitely got jungle carpets are definitely another thing. I have a female I've had for a couple of years that I'm growing out, hoping to pair her either late 2021 or in 2022. Right.
Same thing. It's a constant thing where he, especially on his avenue, he's, he's done a bunch of things, and now he's cleaning out a bunch of stuff and getting ready to start new projects. So it's we change constantly. So
yeah,
that's amazing. So I heard you say black throats. Did I hear that right?
Yep. We're looking into black throats. We got a male, and we got a hopeful female that we're growing right now.
Okay.
So we'd love to get into the black throat game, because Lord knows they need help too. So as far as
black throats, you don't really see any black throats, at least captive bred, on the market these days.
No, not at all.
All of a sudden they hit it once, and then all of a sudden they'll be there, and then all of a sudden they disappear.
And then nothing else for the rest of the year.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. So, but they definitely need help with numbers and getting people what they want, and those and the roughnecks that we're doing, the black roughnecks too. I mean, I'm really excited to do them, because you don't see them captive born.
Yeah, I was going to say, roughnecks are definitely another thing I want to dive into a little later. But for Dylan, I don't know if you had any questions you wanted to ask.
Yeah, I'll get there. I'm still.
He's he hears black throats, and he's like, whoa.
Well, I tell you what, man. Like I said, I'm glad to have you. I'd like to talk a little bit about the breeding portion of it.
Sure.
Do these guys normally, are they in like specific seasons, Or are they like, I mean, to like the newbie person that really doesn't know much, kind of give like maybe like a little brief explanation on how breeding goes for these Arguses.
I'll put it to you this way. I'm still learning as well, but as far as seasons and stuff like that, I've bred them at every different season of the year. You know, I give them space, you know, time and everything to build back up after they've, you know, cycling their eggs and everything like that. But these things, they just seem to breed when they're ready. I mean, when the female puts off the pheromones, the males are good to go. So I think the best luck I've had is growing the female slowly. I know a lot of people want to rush into it. You know, I mean, you read a ton of stuff online, you know, going, oh, it's 6 months to ready to breed. As far as the male goes, sure. The female, I can't help but disagree with that. Not only that, maturity seems to be a big issue. A lot of times you put them together. Most times they'll get along. Sometimes they'll get into huge fights, and it's usually the male after the female. But I've just recently had a female go after the male, so you know it's they're ready when they're ready. Really, the best advice I have is watch the animal, read the animal, listen to the animal. I mean, it will tell you. It'll tell you when it's ready.
That seems to be the big thing, pretty much across the board with monitor lizards. It's not really. It's not like crested geckos, ball pythons, where you specifically do this. You put them like this, and you put it this time of the year, and you get eggs. It seems to be more of you got to really have a connection with that animal and understand. What the process looks like, and then kind of like you said, let the animal tell you what you need to do.
Right. And then even sometimes I've had to separate couples, and luckily I'm in Florida, so the majority of the year they can stay outside. So I'll have them in outside, you know, screen cages, and I'll put the two screen cages up against each other, so they smell each other. They interact with each other through the screen. Nobody's getting hurt and everything like that, and then. Once they do their thing, though, I mean, there's no issues, you know. There's, you know, once the male gets with the female, he loves her forever. So multiples, actually. So.
That is awesome. So you said you're in Florida. What part of Florida?
I'm in Pinellas County, Central Florida.
Okay. So now
I'm actually out on a peninsula, so I mean I'm surrounded by water on a state that's surrounded by water. So it's like, you know, the temperatures are, you know, the temperature and humidity is it's
spot on.
Fantastic here. Yeah, it's spot on. I mean, you can't beat it. So.
Right. So you're truly, honestly, because I was going to ask if being in that area of Florida is going to be, you know. Is there any downsides or any positive sides? But it sounds like it's all positive.
For the most part, it's positive. Just when we get our cold snaps, you know, it's kind of a wet, bitter cold when it does come in. So you kind of got to be, you know, careful with that. But I mean, there's no freezing temperatures. I mean, I bring everybody in. I have an inside facility and everything like that for when that comes. But that's the other thing with breeding too. A lot of people think. You know, the monitor's got to be at, you know, at a certain temperature year round. Where they come from, that temperature is not that temperature year round. So, you know, they need to be subjected to a little bit of cold. They need to, I mean, I'm looking forward to hopefully finally getting our cool fronts and getting a few of my projects, you know, actually going and everything by just subjecting them to that. So it's, you know, it's just one of those things where they sort of feel it, and then all of a sudden everything kicks in, and you know, then the temperatures raise back up, and they start doing their thing.
Right. So
what are downsides? No, there's not a whole lot of downsides in Florida. You can't breed stuff in Florida. You can't breed it anywhere. You know.
Right. So what kind of precautions do you take, and like what maybe kind of methods do you use when those cold fronts do come in?
Generally, I know ahead of time that it's coming through, and I mean, they just come into my inside facility, which is heated and everything. I have inside enclosures and stuff like that, and it's just pull them from outside and put them inside. You know,
okay. Sounds good enough.
It's a simple system.
Man, if you asked me 5 years ago if I would live in Florida, I'd be like, hell no. But now at this time, every time I talk to someone that lives in Florida and they're like, yeah, outside caging, the perfect humidity, the husbandry of your dreams, I'm like, oh, is it worth dealing with Floridians? Is it really worth it?
There is that. There is that.
Anywhere down south, I've been looking at down south, and everyone says the same thing. You sure you want to deal with the people down south, Dakota? Because they're not exactly your people. I'm like, is it worth it? I guess that's the big question.
there is that. I'm from New York originally, so it's like, dealing with the people is, some of them are.
They're a different kind down there. That's what I've heard.
So, Dakota, do you do anything? I mean, obviously, I don't know. I can't recall how long you've had your Argus monitors for. I think it's been a short period of time. Have you done anything to kind of influence, their behavior and getting them ready for? Because I know it's starting to get cold there. Is there anything that you're changing or doing? I know you've got them in their own reptile facility. Do you just primarily have them indoors and kind of have it set up like that, or?
Yeah, fortunately, living up here in New England, I can't afford to bring him outside because it's about 30 right now. So unfortunately, it is an indoor facility. I'm not doing much. Basically, just waiting for that cold front to come in. It's been weird, but we're suddenly, I think it's been 60s for a couple of days. But then if you look at last week, it was like 30s or 40s. So
yeah,
the reptiles are all getting confused. My take was like, do I brumate or do I not brumate, dude? What's the deal? But other than that, I've been feeding them just a little bit less, just because we are getting into that. I do this with most of my monitors. Tegus, I started feeding them a little bit less during the winter periods, just because that's what naturally would occur. Colder temps and then less food. I think that's a huge issue, and that is something you brought up as the fact. And it seems almost like, of course, these reptiles aren't domesticated pets. These are, in the most part, still instinctually wild animals. And like you said earlier, Joe, talking about with this day and age, and again, I'll go rail Facebook groups for the 107th time. Everyone's like, it has to be exactly this temperature, 110 basking spot, X amount of basking spot, whatever you use, and night temps cannot drop below this. When in reality, a healthy night drop is actually beneficial for your reptile, but they don't want to talk about that.
Right. Now, Dylan, I want to ask you, completely kind of left field here. Is there anything that you do for your reptiles as it does get into the colder season? Because I know you kind of are in the same region that Dakota is.
Yep.
Is there anything do you reduce their feedings? Do you change their schedule at all? Change the temperatures? Is there anything that you do along those lines?
Snakes? No.
Okay.
Geckos, I keep everything the same. True lizards like agamids, monitors, anything like that. Yeah, I'll reduce feedings. I'll kind of just do the basic brumation process and let it go with the flow. You know what I mean?
Definitely. Well, it sounds like, that's what I do with my savannas. I kind of reduce the feedings here. And other than that, I change from 12-hour days. I might go down to like 10-hour days. But it's a slow, gradual thing. It's not anything that's immediate. I feel like it's a slow progression. And I feel like with the slow progression and not like an instant, 12 to 10 hour day, I feel like that's kind of a little hard on them. That's my perspective. That's the way I handle it. And I've noticed nothing but great behavior and responses from it. So let's get into some more stuff on these Arguses, okay? Temperature and lighting. Joe, what would you say that is a great temperature, let's say, for a baby, juvenile? What would be an accurate temperature and lighting for them, as well as the adults?
Babies especially, they like that hot spot. Their hot spot could be like 130 degrees. They're good with that. Adults, realistically, the same way. You provide an area for them to get out of it, to cool off. You're good. I always kept hotter spots than, less than that. Because they can always you just got to provide the area for them to get away from it and, cool down like into the low 90s, high 80s area. And they're good to go. that's the great thing about, providing something towards the area of like a burrow. They're getting down completely out of it, so you can have that real hot spot. They have that cool, moist place to actually go down and sleep in. But with juveniles, there's kind of a downside of that too. A lot of people want to give them this great big cage and fill it with 2-3 feet of dirt substrate and as babies, because they don't have the confidence yet to come out, be social or anything like that in life. So they'll actually bury themselves down in a tunnel and they're not eating the way you want them to either. So it's more of a grow and slow thing. Start them out something small and work their way up. It's not necessarily, a lot of people think, oh, you get a baby monitor, you got to have an 8 foot by 4 foot by 4 foot cage, and you're going to have a hell of a time finding that thing if you ever choose it again. You know what I mean? So,
oh yeah, absolutely.
Started in a 40-gallon breeder, work with it. That's where you get your interaction time. That's where you build the confidence of the lizard, and then gradually move it up. To put it simply, you're scaring the shit out of it if you're basically sticking it out of the wild, and that's exactly how they're going to act in the wild. They're going to go hide, and that's why they soak up so much yolk out of the egg when they're before they hatch, because they're filling their bellies and they're going to go hide and sit there and digest for months at a time. I've had a few that didn't eat for the first 3 months, and I honestly didn't think they were going to make it. All of a sudden, started eating. So, yep.
Holy cow.
That's funny that you mentioned that. I've received a little bit of backlash on my channel for housing my monitors the way I do in these smaller setups, but it just seems it seems to be a place of ignorance where on paper it sounds great, put your baby animal in this massive enclosure so it has so much room, but as you're saying, a lot of people don't take into account the confidence of the animal and the psychology of what that's going to permit. Of course, in the wild, if they're out in the open, they're vulnerable, they're going to do exactly what you did and hide. I actually had this happen with my Accu monitors. I immediately put them in a 6x3. They're about 8-9 months old, so I figured this will be okay, but nope, immediately they hid for the first 3 days. Never saw them, never basking, never eating. Switched them back to a 4x2. Immediately noticed a difference. They're out and about. They're feeding for me. They're basking. 180 within like 20 hours maybe. So smaller enclosures are definitely the way to go and working your way up. And that's about it.
No, absolutely. You scare the shit out of them. They're not thrive and they're not going to breed. I mean, that's the bottom line. You gotta build them up to that. That's
even when talking to you, I was like, oh man, I'm going to build them. I got a 14x8 that I'm building right now. And you're like, whoa, slow down there.
We talked about that.
Those things are like 2.5 feet. What are you doing?
Yep, that's right. No, and it is, and it makes a huge difference. I mean, I'm still raising this one. I got him in a because he's outside all the time. I got him in a Critter Nation cage, and it works perfect. They get enough shade. He's got a box, to go in with the dirt in it and everything like that, and I'm able to socialize it with it every day. And when I know he's exactly there, that's where he's going to jump into a bigger enclosure. But you put him into a bigger enclosure, they're either too soon. They're either going to be scared shitless, or the balls are going to get big real quick. And there's a backlash to that side too. You don't know how it's going to go. I've had them go both directions. Too many times. So,
damn. So, Joe, kind of going back into the enclosure with that. What's your choice of substrate? As well as they do like to burrow. These guys are notorious for burrowing, similar to savannas, tegus, stuff like that. How many feet deep do you feel like is necessary for these guys to burrow?
I don't actually. I started out that way with where I had 4x4 enclosures, 4x8 enclosures with just stupid amounts of dirt in them and everything. Like I said, they burrow. Beyond that, they dig so much the dirt out of the cage, it'd be everywhere. They really mess up their water when you got dirt in the enclosure too. I mean, you're changing it more than once a day, and that's too much for anybody. I don't care who you are. I've actually switched to cypress mulch. It works fine. Instead of sticking dirt in the entire cage, I stick a tub in there, whether it's a tote or some sort of plastic made container or whatever, and I drill a hole in the top of it, stick the dirt in there. As long as it's big enough for the lizard to fit into with some dirt in there, it's the same principle. It's still keeping that humidity in. It's keeping the dirt, just moist enough, and they have a place to go. And that's all they're looking for. They don't need the tunnel. They're not gophers or anything like that. They're just looking for that. They're just looking for that place to go, to feel good, to feel enclosed, in the dirt, which is, again, that the moisture in the dirt is good for their, their shedding and everything like that. So that's really, that's all they need. They don't need that much. You don't need to stick a ton of dirt, in an enclosure and not be able to. My stuff goes from outside to inside every day, even the ones that are outside. So, mulch is a lot lighter than dirt, so it's a hell of a lot cleaner. So,
So the question on that,
some controversy here, Joe. Not giving your animals proper substrate. Facebook groups have a field day with this.
So how well do you feel like the cypress mulch, you said, how well does that hold humidity?
Great. The worst thing you got to do is just hose it down, and a lot of holding humidity. I don't have to worry about that here. I can have open screen cages because I'm in Florida. It's
perfect husbandry. The reptile paradise is where he's living at.
Exactly. And now I don't post too much on Facebook. It's like half the nation.
I'm starting to get some popularity on YouTube, and we got some folks coming out of the woods and trying to tell me what's up. It's something.
I hear you, but a lot of, if you're losing humidity, that means your enclosure needs, more sides, tops on it to hold in more humidity. I don't have to have that here other than 3 months out of the year, which then at that point they're inside here anyways. And the cypress mulch is easy. All I got to do is hose them down and everything's wet again. So it's that simple,
Sweet. Dakota, what do you use?
Right now I'm using a topsoil sand mix, but I was so I don't provide that 2 feet. I was actually basically exactly what Joe said. Is I actually went out and I have a 3 foot by 18 inch by I think it's like 2 feet tote that I'm going to put in there, fill with some nice probably a topsoil peat moss and then some sand mix, a nice little substrate mixture in there to again the perfect burrows and something they can really dig into instead of basically like you're saying getting dirt literally everywhere. Because I probably got I want to say around 7-8 inches in there, and still water bowls, they need to be changed every other day. It's a mess. So the cypress mulch is actually very enticing at this point.
Yeah, and that mixture that you talked about, that's a perfect mixture. You don't have to have it in the entire cage, just a bin. It's all you need just for them to go in and the mess is it's just easier that way. It's sitting right there. They have what they need. They don't need it throughout the entire cage.
Now, Dylan, obviously previously working at Nerd, what were some of the substrates that you've seen there that were, I guess, more, one, beneficial, and two, how often were you having to take care of those, such as watering it down or, whatnot like that? What would be some things that you've seen that you could pertain to this?
So we had kind of a unique system. We use cypress mulch for the main layer of substrate. Worked great, and most of that is because it holds humidity well, and the building's already humid on its own. We also had a underlayer, which that's where they would burrow. So Kevin built these PVC enclosures, so it had a false bottom, basically.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I want to take a note from that. I've been seeing those enclosures. It's basically he built like a PVC enclosure around a very large tote.
Yep, pretty much.
Yeah. I want to take a note from that because that looks like it works out a hell of a lot easier than what I'm doing.
Hell yeah. Well, hey, it sounds like that is like the perfect recipe. I mean, if Joe's saying it, sounds like it works. Good stuff. Simple.
I have a question for Joe, if he's willing to take it.
That's right.
Yeah, go for it.
What is probably the most challenging part of Arguses for you? Whether it be the feeding bill, the size, dealing with the disposition.
That attitude.
Disposition, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, I figured that would be the answer.
I still can't use this thumb properly.
Yeah, I don't know. Did I send you that picture, Trevor?
No.
Oh, you gotta go look on his Instagram. How long? That was like a couple of months ago? A few months now?
Yeah, it was a couple months ago. Yeah, it was 3-4 months
Early
ago now.
It was pretty.
All right.
It was pretty.
Right,
I've only been bit by 3 monitors in my life, all Asian water monitors, and even the babies hurt, man. Like, I can't imagine.
Yep,
Argus.
Arguses,
just the other day while feeding, just actually moved my thumb a little bit while on the tongue. She immediately went over, latched onto my thumb, so I'm having to like grab, this like 3-foot thing that's just spinning around on my thumb. And the teeth, man, the teeth on Argus monitors, they're unlike any other animal that I have right now. They are sharp.
They're like shark teeth.
Yes, yep. So any kind of movement, and that skin's just getting torn off.
Yeah, I've never been bitten by an Argus. I've bitten by a tegu who thought my finger was food after using tongs. Completely, I mean, this is an adult tegu, completely latched on. I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, holy shit. And, like, at least they're kind of released. But Arguses, from what I've seen and heard, like, 1, it's a painful bite. 2, they don't let go right away. Like, once they sink their teeth in, they want what they are tasting.
I've had to let her drag my hand around a bit because she just wouldn't let go. And I'm like, all right, I guess I'm going for a little ride.
So out of all reptiles that you guys have been bit by, out of a scale 1 to 10, what would you rate an Argus bite at?
I mean, Joe's is probably up there.
It's got to at least be a 6 or a 7. I haven't been bit by a croc or anything, so. But it's up there. It's up there.
Damn, that's wild. So let's kind of get in. So we're talking about bites. It kind of is close in relation to food. Feeding. How do you go about your feedings? What are you feeding these guys? Do you use extra calcium? Do you feel like the calcium that they're getting from maybe the food that you might be feeding is enough? Like, how do you go about feedings?
As far as feeding, number one, I don't feed a whole lot in rats. They do get rats, but I don't feed a whole lot in rats, only because it's not necessary. I feed a lot in chicken necks, gizzards, livers, chicken hearts, ground turkey. I like to mix the ground turkey with the Missouri crock food because that's got everything in it. And I love the rapashi. I try to start off all my babies on the rapashi because that's loaded with everything that they need in it. Unfortunately, when they get older, they're not such big fans of it, but I'll mix it in with other stuff. As far as extra calcium, again, mine are out here in the Florida sun, 8-9 months of the year. So I don't want to really over-calcify them, but I do give them calcium here and there, especially after a female's laid laid eggs, laid a clutch or whatever, even for cycle. I'll go ahead and give her a little bit extra with the calcium just to put it on there, but not a whole lot in calcium because with the chicken necks and what rats I do give, quail and stuff like that, they're getting that calcium from it. But if it's just organs, then I'll dust it with some calcium. Which again, I love the Rapashi calcium. It's got so much in it. I mean, it's well worth the money. And
it's definitely a solid brand.
Now you said all your adults won't eat it. I got a tip if you want to take it.
Sure.
Have you ever tried grinding up the meat and putting it in the grinded meat?
In
like a batter,
like Rapashi in grinded meat.
Oh yeah, that's what I do. When the adults don't want to eat it, then I just hide it in the ground turkey. so they're still getting it.
That's interesting about the diet because, again, going back to Facebook groups, I guess that's my revolving thing is everyone says for monitors, whole prey and whole prey only, like they're a fucking snake. I was feeding, I think I had some chicken thighs, chicken hearts, livers, stuff like that. And again, retaliation, people saying they really should only be feeding on whole prey items. I'm like... that's a lot, especially if you're getting into the larger ones. I mean, they're not. I mean, unless you're spending a fortune on mice, you're going to have to eventually upgrade to the smaller rats, and that's a lot of fat to be feeding every single day or every single feeding period.
Exactly, and a whole bunch of hair that's not doing any good.
A whole bunch of hair. There are a lot of furry poops that I have to clean up.
Yep. And I actually had a female that did not digest hair properly, so she ended up passing from it. So that was one of my older females where I just couldn't get her unbound from it, but the hair was every time she just could not eat rats at all. And 2 was all I gave her, and that was enough to do her in.
Wow.
Some of them get that, and realistically, I mean, if you think about it in the wild, these things, they're going to scavenge on roadkill and whatever they possibly can. I mean, fish is another one. I'm huge about feeding fish fillets and stuff like that. But they're going to scavenge. They're not digging up rat holes trying to find a rat.
All rats all the time. That is their only objective.
It's the only way.
But again, like you said, Facebook group. It's like everybody's an expert.
Everyone.
It's crazy how easy it seems to everyone to just shit on your parade, basically.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's ridiculous. Absolutely. So we have talked about food. We've talked about temperature, lighting. Let's talk about enclosure. Very sensitive topic for a lot of people who have...
That's where we get in trouble.
Right. That have a lot of different views on a lot of different things. So let's start with babies and juveniles. Okay. What's something that you advise starting off for an enclosure size?
I start all my babies in a 40-gallon breeder.
Okay. And how long do you keep them in there?
Depends on how fast they grow. And here's the other thing too, is I don't, like all my juvies, when I start them off, they don't see a single pinky mouse. They don't see a single pinky rat or anything. I mean, that's a stick of butter you're handing them. It's not doing them any good. So they're mainly an insect diet out in the wild. That's what they're going to start on. I'll give them fish here and there. The ground turkey with the croc, the Missouri croc food, I'll put that in there just because that's good for them diet wise. But 40-gallon breeder, and it depends on how fast they grow. And that was one thing I will say. I've had some just shoot to like that, while some just stay like that for much longer periods. That is one part I have not figured out, why some go so much faster than others when they're eating the same thing, when they're housed the same way. Mm-hmm. But it all depends. Usually about 6 months on average.
Okay. So when you got yours, what was your initial idea and plan for your first enclosure?
Mine was the same way. Oh man, everyone smokes a cigarette, and I'm like, fuck. Oh my goddamn cigarettes. I'll start doing these outside. Pretty much same way. It's just instead of a 40-gallon, I was using 3x2 grow tents. That's where I housed both of mine in for a number of months before moving them into the 6x3 together. So same general size, just different material.
40-gallon, right?
Yeah. 40 gallons, like what, 36 by 18, and the 3x2, same thing.
Yeah.
I find, especially as babies, and something with Argus monitors, because they're a little bit more headstrong than, say, your typical like tree monitor, something that's going to scurry just with anything. So using that smaller setup, and then kind of restricting, not putting a shit ton of hides in there. So they're, again, a deep substrate, so it's going to burrow. Pretty much forcing that interaction seems to be the best way to socialize animals down, not to fear you as much as they can if you're utilizing other methods. So that's definitely, I love using the smaller setups for my monitors, using little to no hides. So basically they're forced to expose with me and just not have that negative experience. So just make sure you're doing the right stuff, reading the proper body language, of course, is the next thing, and making sure you're not freaking them out too bad to the point where they still hate you either way.
Good point.
Absolutely. So now this brings me to my next question here is what type of things for socializing drills do you have any, Joe, Dakota, Dylan, if there's any type of socializing drills that you guys could maybe advise to new Argus monitors or potential Argus monitors or just monitors in general.
Actually, real quick, I wanted to sidetrack a little bit before we get into that. I want to know how social can you get these monitors? So obviously, these aren't going to be like Asian water monitors that are going to be little lapdogs that come right up to you if you're doing the right thing. They're a little bit of a different breed. So in your opinion, what is the most habitualized you can get an Argus monitor?
That depends on the monitor, honestly. That depends on the animal. I've had some. I had actually one of my first females that I ever hatched out. She was my baby. She's just pure freaking evil now. It doesn't matter what I do. She's just awful. This last one that I got, these last couple that I got are sweet as hell. It's getting into further, bloodlines and stuff like that, as far as, getting down into the breeding and everything like that. But some are great. I mean, I literally have a male named Asshole. It's for a reason. It's for a reason. Yeah, I wouldn't even sell them to anybody. I just wouldn't do that to anybody.
Trust me, you don't want these.
But some are great. It depends. It depends on the animal. But I think a lot of that's going to have to do with the like Kevin McCurley did with the generational breeding and stuff like that. Getting into it, I do a lot to do with it. Breeding down the lines and everything. Obviously, a lot of it has to do with how much time you can actually spend with them. But as far as how tame you can get an Argus monitor, I'm still learning. I can't wait to find out. You guys are the first to allow
what generation are your guys going at now?
I've actually got now siblings that I've already brought up from the original parent, as well as other ones from New Blood that I brought in that were captive born. And actually, yours is one of those where it was bred to New Blood that was a captive born one. So
we're talking third generation.
Technically, yeah. Well, no, second generation.
Sorry, yeah, I skipped a number. Yeah, second generation.
Yeah, second generation. Yeah. With the females that I've got going now that are literally have already bred. I've got eggs incubating from them now. I took 2.5 years, at least, might even be longer, at least 2.5 years growing them to make sure that they were 100% ready, healthy, good to breed, mature, the whole 9 yards, and they're receptive to everything now. So they'll be hatching out the beginning of the year. The first of those will be hatching out. The other ones from the New Blood, all of them have been. Your male was actually one of them. Have been number one. Their pattern and color has been. With some of them have been ridiculously beautiful. And
oh yeah, the side markings down the neck and the throat are outstanding.
It is. And I got some where it's more banding than dotted. So I'm hoping to see what I do with that. But other than feeding, I mean, I've gotten no aggression from any of them. So I'm hoping that's part of it too. I mean, like I say, it's another one of those things that I'm still learning itself. Until I get breeding them further down the line and can actually pinpoint what it is and see who ends up being a jerk out of the clutch or who still stays calm. I really don't know until then.
Cool.
Awesome. Well, so let's get back into it. What are some of the socializing drills that all three of you use for your reptiles? And I mean, Dylan, for you, from what you've seen for any type of monitor, this can relate to what type of drills have you seen to be most beneficial for newbies and advanced?
So my first thing is having them think a little bit and differentiating food and people and diffusing that situation. And the way I'll do that is usually have food on tongs, lure them up my arm. If that's not a possibility, I'll usually feed, go under the chin.
So
I mean,
going
a
under
little
the
different.
chin.
I don't know Arguses that well, so I'll be honest. You might not even be able to do that. I don't know. So, but
It's pretty much it's pretty much the same.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's pretty much the same. Just the only thing I'd add to that is with them, I change it up all the time. I don't do anything repetitive. I don't like to get them into a routine.
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely.
Then they kind of overstep their boundaries, you know.
Yeah, I like to open my setup like 3-4 times a day just to make sure, like, every time I don't come in here, it doesn't mean it's food, because there's been a few times, especially that female, the male, your male's great. That female is a little more feisty. Where when I open the cage, she immediately is like, "Ooh, what's going on?" Like darts up front and looks what's up. I basically do the same thing. Of course, tongue feeding, having them go up the arm. Something I like to do is when I'm messing around with them is, again, to get them thinking and to get that enticement, I'll start like digging around the soil and just making a mess, making a noise, and they'll immediately come over and investigate, see what's going on. I've had the female where I started digging, she came up to me and then started digging with me. She thought just something was down there. So anything like that, just to get some sort of interaction with them, because of course just going up and scratching on the chin is something I haven't yet to been able to do, except maybe a few times.
Right.
Well, that is, I mean, I feel like I do a lot of that with my Savannahs. I change up a lot of things. Dakota, it's exactly similar to what you do. I try to, like, just recently, I've been doing a lot of hand feedings only because I've gained their understanding of not every time I come in there is feeding time. They've grasped that concept. And I feel like a lot of people, if they bum rush that, it's going to go 10 step backwards and just not be a progressive thing. You know, I feel like you're going to be fighting an uphill battle for quite a long time. I've noticed also with them is, getting them out, giving them baths, having them, around multiple people, different sounds, different things, and pushing them just a little bit outside of their comfort zone to where they're aware but not like flighty and uncomfortable. I really feel like that makes quite a difference. A lot of people, I feel like, maybe jump too far. I mean, bringing a lizard out at a house party, not socialized. I don't recommend that. That's not okay. I've been to people's houses where, hey man, check out my huge iguana. Terrible time. How long have you had that iguana, bro? A couple weeks, man. I mean, like, he's 6 feet. He's badass. Yeah, he's cool, but I bet you he's an asshole, isn't he?
See, I think you got the wrong idea, man. Once you have a party and you want your guests to leave, you come out there, both Argus is swinging. You said, "Go get them," and they leave real quick. Once you hear,
clear the house, guys.
You saw the intro. Those things, they're so fast, incredibly.
I did
just
not
takes
know.
one of them going like this to get everyone to get out.
Right, just that initial, like, right away, like.
No, as soon as I enter the room and I look over, you just see the female. What do you think they're doing? It always looks like they're trying to square up and start something with you.
Dude, I had no idea, absolutely no idea how fast they were. Holy shit. Like, these guys zoom. I mean, these guys can get up and go. Holy cow. Fuck. I couldn't believe it. Now, Joe, like, I mean, you got quite a few. So, I mean, is that something that you, like, run into every day, like, during feedings? Like approaching you, like, is it always like a fast-paced interaction, or is it kind of, have they gotten used to you?
With feeding, no, it's always give it to me quick. I mean, half the time I can't even get the damn cage door open, and they're trying to stick their head through it. So I mean, it's usually the bucket of food's here, and the tongs are at the other side of the cage, going, "Hey, it's over here," just so I can open a damn door. So they're nuts like that, and that's constant. That's just you got to expect that, period.
That's one of my favorite things about them is, because with some other species, they're going to tame down better. With other species, Niles, stuff like that, for the most part, they're going to be an asshole. Niles are like this middle ground where you're not going to have a nice reptile, but you're going to have a very fun monitor lizard.
Yeah, I agree with that.
You can sit back in a chair and just drink a beer and watch these guys for hours.
Oh my God, they're up and about, constantly moving.
Water monitors are going to get fat and lazy and just sit and bask. Where these artists, they don't stop. They just and it's not even getting out. It's not even trying to get out of their enclosure or anything. It's just they're just on the move. They just think all the time. It's crazy.
I have mine. I have a climbable wall. It's like a bamboo fencing. Now at this point, with their size, it's not working out too well. It's mostly being destroyed. I'm thinking lattice is my next step for something a little more secure. But yeah, the female scaling up that I don't know why. She just scales up and then drops back down and then goes back up. I'm like, okay, hey, whatever you want to do.
They're great climbers, but they suck at coming back down.
Yeah, it's just literally you'll hear. I'm like working. You hear.
No. And then we'll look up like, oh, I meant to do that.
Of course, the male's next to her, and she's like, shh, you went too fast. Like, that's the two things. You're flopping, and I constantly, shh.
Yep.
That's so crazy. So these guys are really not the best climbers, right? Because that's what I've seen in red.
They're great climbers. They're just not good at coming back down.
Okay.
Yeah, they love to climb. They're not built to climb. That's not what God gave them. God gave them digging arms, not climbing arms. But they just no one's told them yet.
They're terrestrial animals. But if you give them the opportunity to climb, they're going to climb. But when they come back down, it's like a plane falling out of the sky, man. It's just there's no soft landing at all.
So what about swimmers? Do they swim well?
Oh, they're great swimmers, and they love the water. I mean, really, all monitors love the water.
Yeah,
that's something I got to start. I'm looking into getting a larger water area for mine now because they're getting pretty good size. I was doing the shoebox, but they're not shoebox size no more.
Yeah. They don't have to, but I mean, they love to soak in their water. They love to defecate in their water, and
that makes my life a little bit easier. If I gotta change the water either way. So it's a one-stop motion at that point.
That's it. They love water.
That's definitely easier that way when they do that. Dylan, I mean, what's your thoughts on that?
I mean, it is definitely easier. It's until it's a bad day because you have spilled a whole tub of shit water on yourself. And
you got to get a wet vac. Wet vac it out of there. You're good to go.
There you go. That's wild. So I kind of want to dial it back just a little bit, kind of like what we were initially talking about. You breed these guys. How many generations in are you?
I'm only in on my second generation now.
Say that again.
I'm only in on my second generation now.
Okay. So with that being said, do you have like a certain, like, what's the time frame? Like, kind of give us a little more information on like the breeding process, the hatching, kind of stuff like that. Give us like a kind of like a short brief.
The breeding process, I mean, when they're ready, the female's going to put off the pheromones. I mean, the male's always ready, so it's just a matter of watching the female. You know, she'll kind of give you signals that she's ready and everything. About 30, 45 days later, usually she puts out her, to put out her clutch of eggs. The egg hatching, that's like a 6 to 7 month minimum incubation period. And I actually incubate at a lower temperature than everybody else because really that's how it's done in the wild. And although wild caught in captivity does not make for a great animal, they are still a hardier animal. When you're rushing the incubation period,
and that just goes back to what we were talking about earlier about absorbing the yolk.
Right. And but when you're rushing the incubation period, it's why some you'll get like little kink tails at the end and stuff like that. You're rushing that growth period that they actually need inside the egg, and it's a real important thing. But it's about, like I say, it's a minimum of 6 to 7 months for the incubation period.
Now, is there like a certain temperature that can dictate male or female, similar to like some of the geckos that?
No, iguanas and stuff like that. Yeah, no, this is with monitors. It doesn't work that way. It's just the luck of the draw. I will say, for the most part, I've been pretty much 50-50. if I had to average it out guessing, it's been pretty much male, female, about pretty close to 50-50, maybe a little heavier on the males. But no, not to my knowledge anyways. There's no dictating, the sex out of them.
What's a typical clutch size?
That can be anywhere. I've had some, the majority of the clutches are like 6 to 12, but I've had some where they've put out 16 viable eggs.
Wow.
That's very far and few between. It seems to be all of a sudden it's a good hit, so, but generally it's about 6 to 8. At your average, if you were going to expect something, I'd say 6 to 8 eggs is usually what it is.
Oh, with egg laying, have you found that growing females out a little bit longer? Because I know that's what you were saying, 2.5 years before introducing. If you notice larger egg clutches to maybe previous that have been bred at a younger age.
I haven't really gotten into a whole lot of that yet. You mean as far as the egg size themselves? The
clutch size.
The clutch size, the younger always seems to be more close to the 6 to 8 eggs. As they get older and they get into a few clutches, like maybe the following year, that's where I get into bigger clutches. But I've even had that same female drop down to 6 eggs again. So it's another one of those weird things.
Mystery still.
Yeah, I don't have a reason or I'm going to explain it yet. I'm hoping to learn that, but
Nice. Well, Dylan, anything? Questions?
Yeah, I got a quick question. So you said you work not only with Arguses, you work with Roughnecks. What is a species that you would like to work with?
Oh hell, how much time you got? Honestly, the Roughnecks, only because the Roughnecks, which I am working with, I really wanted to do them, just because again that captive breeding thing is just not there, at least not there in the United States. So I'm hoping to do that. If I fall on my face, I fall on my face. I'm going to keep on trying doing it. There's species that are not here in the country. I mean, my dream species would be like the sand monitors. I don't know how big a deal that's going to be even just to get them here with CITES and all that shit. So, but I would love to work with something like that. Get into whatever's not here.
Yeah.
As far as monitors, there's not a monitor species that I don't like. There's a lot I'm going to be getting into, but as far as that dream one, I would probably say is going to be the sand monitors. From over here in Egypt and places like that.
Yeah.
But getting them here, that's another story. I got to work on that.
Right. Yeah, that seems like something hard to get.
Yeah, it's good. It's going to be definitely, if it's even possible at all, it's going to be very, very hard to get.
So, I mean, for somebody that, let's say, somebody wants to get into breeding monitors, first-time guy, what do you recommend? I mean, what would be like a good beginner tip? Because I've seen a lot of people go out and buy just a ton of monitors, all young, and not really focusing on one thing. Do you feel like it's...
You calling me out over here, Trevor?
Shut the fuck up.
He's like, oh yeah, I see this guy, buys 7 monitors and just throws them out. Like, what the fuck is he thinking?
So, I mean, like, do you go off and, I mean, like, for somebody that goes off and buys a bunch of them young and starts them up, if they've got the space, is that a bad idea? Or is it something maybe only to put a focus upon one thing and take it gradual and build off that?
Me, that's what I did. I wanted to do the Argus, 5-6 years ago when I started Arguses, that was one of those things. I mean, you didn't find them that easily. So when I finally did, I went ahead and said, that's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm going to focus on. I could have bought a whole bunch of monitors. Instead, I decided to hang on to the Argus, a lot of the Argus that I had I wanted to perfect that project and make sure it's there. Now a whole bunch of people are doing Arguses, which I think is freaking fantastic,
It seems, just a quick side note, it seems, so I remember probably like 4 or 5 years ago, somewhere around that mark, where they dropped in value pretty heavily to where I was finding them for $250. But at this point, they seem to be on the rise now, where I bought mine from you and that other one for around $450 at this point. Yeah,
and that's because 4 or 5 years ago, the majority of them were imported because there was virtually nobody breeding them here in the state that I know of, anyways, and that everybody told me. So,
Okay.
That's the other thing that the industry, or at least the customers of the industry, are having a hard time understanding. They see something from 4 years. I mean, black throats, for Christ's sake. I mean, 5 years ago, you could pick one up for $350 and it was full grown, and now they're up in the $2,000 area. That's because exporting got cut out. So obviously their value is gonna go up. That's another, within the industry, it's a misconception as far as how much they actually go for and what the difference is between catching them out of the wild and actually spending this much time doing it.
Yeah, for sure. Because that's definitely first glance, just scrolling through Morph Market and seeing prices, not doing that extra step of clicking on it and seeing if it's captive bred or imported.
Jacoby, when are you not on Morph Market, bro?
Bro, I gotta find, like I told you, people my age, they're on Zillow, they're looking at houses they can't afford. My ass is on Morph Market checking out the melanistic mangrove going for $6,000 and the fucking F1 import croc monitor. I got my eyes on that. I just need to figure out where to get $10,000.
Man, I tell you what, they got a lot of good stuff on there. I do the same thing. I'm always on there looking all the time, seeing what the new
fauna guy is. So.
What's that?
I can't get into fauna. It's so.
What did you say?
Fauna's definitely.
I'm a fauna guy, so I'm definitely so.
Look, so I just had a gentleman, James Perry, just kind of comment here on that hypo Savannah. I'm not going to get into that, but I will tell you, I'm not a fan of Outback reptiles. I'll just leave it there. Do your research. You can go from there. But more into the Argus stuff. Dylan, are you going to get an Argus or what?
Nope.
You heard it. January, February.
If I was to get any kind of monitor, it would be a Quince or probably a Dumerals.
My guy.
I love Dumerals.
Yeah, I love Dumerals.
So yeah, I'm having the same passion that Joe has for the Roughnecks with the Quince monitors. Is the fact there's virtually no captive bred breeding. I think 3 people in the States are doing it right now. And that's definitely now. It's going to take me, especially talking with Dylan, there were like 7 years before he saw anyone breeding, so it'll be a minute or two before anything happens. But it's something like you the same way with the Roughnecks. I definitely have a passion for the species and want to see it thrive and have the customer have a better experience than one that, especially me in the past, personally have had with imports.
Right.
Joe, what were some of the biggest difficulties with your Argus monitors? Like, what were some of the biggest challenges and difficulties that you experienced with them with your first pair, growing them and achieving the socialization? I mean, what were your biggest problems?
Mainly just understanding them. Once you understand them, it's really a piece of cake. The biggest difficulty I had was as far as pairing them up too soon. I mean, my male, my first pair, my male, he went after that female. It was usually at nighttime during sleep. They were probably fighting over sleeping quarters and stuff like that. Again, it's that territorial, immature area. So had to separate them for a while. Again, like I said, put the 2 cages together. So, they eventually, there was just that sign. I wish I could explain it, but it's just something you really see. There's just a difference in the female all of a sudden. Then you put them back together and you can see the male, I call it googly eyes. His eyes just completely changed. And it's just flicking that tongue, and just following her all over the place. And luckily, with their bite and everything, they're not like bearded dragons or iguanas. They don't go after the female like that. They're actually sweet as hell with the female. And they'll never do harm to her again.
And my male's been the same way. Literally basking side by side. She walks over here. He follows her right out.
You're getting close.
I wanted to backtrack a little bit to what you said, Trevor, with how people kind of just buy whatever kind of monitor they'd like. I wanted to shed some of my advice on that. Something just fell. Sorry. I wanted to shed some of my advice on that, if that's all right.
Yeah.
I would say any kind of animal that you should not just jump into, big constrictors, big lizards, hots. The best advice I've been giving is the best one is somebody else's. learn, see what it's like to actually work with it. See if you even like it before you get a monitor that's going to be 6+ feet.
Yeah,
absolutely. And that's that question you see on Facebook all the time.
I'm sorry, Dylan.
What's that?
I didn't do that. I just jumped in head first, and I'm having a great fucking time with
Yeah,
it.
but you have experience. That's different.
I guess that's true. I've been around. I mean, definitely not any admirable amount of time, but I've been in the hobby for a minute now.
Oh yeah. Hey, Dakota, just want to throw this out there. Bella said Dakota would sell a kidney for a reptile.
I think we all would.
Yeah, I mean, see, my folks are like, Dakota's this crazy reptile guy, and I've been trying to explain to them. They're like, you have too many reptiles. I'm like, no, I'm like the bottom of the barrel. Like, this is the norm in my hobby.
Yeah.
Dakota, I have to say, this is actually not an interview. It's an intervention.
All right, folks, let's go wrap it up for today.
I can't take it. No, that's too funny. That shit's got me laughing. So I do have a question from somebody that's watching. From James Perry, when y'all got your first monitor, were you guys intimidated at all?
Oh man, did you really have to use that grammar for it? You had to say it word for word.
I said it how it was.
Was the accent? Did they say what accent to use?
Look, I'm just reading how it's getting put down. That's how I'm reading it. Right?
You're interpreting. I get it, man.
I'm from Tennessee, so don't make me bust out the twang on you. All right. So go ahead. What's going on?
Well, I'll go since someone else is talking. So for me personally, I don't own any monitors. I just have experience with monitors. If I was to get one, I probably would be a little intimidated, but your research is where that comes in hand.
Absolutely. I really could not agree more. I got my first monitor was a Savannah monitor, and I will not lie, I was a little intimidated at first because I didn't have the knowledge and the research gained before I actually had this animal, this reptile. And it was a learning process, a huge curve for me because it wasn't anything like a gecko. It was very high maintenance, and it was everything had to be spot on. So I had to learn quick. But being intimidated, I feel like with it being a carnivore also, and well, not the Savannahs, but some of the other ones that are primarily carnivores, it can definitely be intimidating. There's those accidental bites. There's those, those little things that could be like, oh shit, that really hurt. Like, okay, now you start overthinking, like, fuck, I don't want to feel that again. Like, and it could push some people out of it. But I feel like that's where the research and like, hey, those things are going to happen with owning these types of reptiles. These reptiles are not a joke. They are high maintenance and they require patience. Joe, what do you think?
I was not intimidated when I got my first monitor because I was too damn excited. Since I got nabbed a few months ago by a full-grown male adult, I'm a little intimidated now.
Fuck yeah.
Sometimes it takes that,
Absolutely. Dakota?
But your point is right.
I mean, once you go with tokay geckos,
yeah,
you don't get intimidated by anything. I got nerves of steel at this point, guys.
Reptile Superman over here.
Yeah, I mean, get bit by a couple tokays and you're all set for life. I'm pretty much the same way with Joe. As soon as I got these Argus monitors, I was hands in. I wanted to interact with these guys. I was tongue feeding, hand feeding. Until the one day I got a pretty nasty bite from the male. Again, nothing like we're talking 2.5 foot monitors, so I mean not too much damage, but it didn't tickle, and that was the point where I was like, oh, okay, maybe I should be slightly more reserved than just going in headstrong and then getting my finger torn up.
Yeah, I definitely feel like there is a good way to approach the reptiles during feedings and any time, and I feel like I've got a certain way that I approach my Savannahs, and that's probably going to be different for everybody on how they approach the reptiles. But I feel like that's how, you know, that's a pretty big difference for a lot of people. Everyone's got their own method and own way, you know. So like I've read on so much shit about on literally Facebook groups on, you know, hey, my Nile's really pissed off. Like, how can I approach him? And it's like, I feel like if you've done the research, I feel like you should already figure out that balance of this is good, this is bad. I have to try my own thing. I don't feel like all of them are the same. I mean, would you say that with your Arguses?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. There's, I have no one. I mean, these things aren't machines. There is no one method that works for all of them. It's just, I mean, they're animals. They all have their brains, their own brains. They're extremely intelligent. I mean, you know, you can't deal with one person the same as you can deal with the next. These guys are the same exact way.
That was probably one of my favorite parts when I got the pair, is seeing the difference in the personality, where the male seems a slightly more reserved, timid, a little more aloof, where the female's a lot more headstrong. I had no problem with the male associating my hand with food. With the female, that was something I had to work on, because if anything got in the enclosure, she's right up there, she's ready, and I got a couple of bites from that, but after working on it, it cleared up. But yeah, it's crazy seeing the just huge personality difference in even the same species.
And after they go through puberty, that's where I've noticed the real change, especially with the males. I mean, they go from sweet to all of a sudden I'm just a total shithead, you know.
I got that testosterone now.
It really is. It really is.
That's when they start getting beefed up too, so it matches.
So
yeah.
Hell yeah. So when do, like, one of the main things that Arguses are known for is their tripoding. Like I've seen it. I think it's a gorgeous thing that they do. Is that something that they do right from the start, or is this something that it's kind of progression in age?
No, I mean, some do it more than others, but I mean, generally the babies are tripoding after maybe their first week after being born, second week, somewhere in that area. Yep, yeah, they start right from the get-go, and all it takes is something to catch their eye, but really it seems to be sound. They hear a weird sound that they're not used to hearing, and all of a sudden they're standing up checking it out.
And I'll tell you, there is nothing better in Argus monitor ownership than that first tripod. That was first day with that male. I saw him tripod, and I was like, oh my God, this is so cool.
It doesn't get old either.
No, every day they're tripoding. I'm like, yes, I love this. I got one. I'm sure you saw the picture. I got them both tripoding at the same time. I was able to catch a picture. It's just fantastic. Every time it does. It never gets old.
Absolutely.
So, Joe, when are you going to have some available? Do you have any available?
Possibly, should be about the middle of next month. Well, they'll be hatching out the middle of next month, so end of the month, beginning of the year.
Sweet.
Yep. So as long as they hatch out, so they're looking good. So I think we got, I think there's 9 or 10 in the incubator, and then I got more. I believe off the top of my head, they're due like March.
Nice.
Oh, that's gonna be rough, man. Like anxiety ridden, 6 to 7 months. I'm over here with some of my New Caledonian stuff, and I'm like, come on, it's been 6 weeks, hatch already.
Absolutely.
Hell yeah. Dylan, any questions for Joe? Dakota?
No. Well, if do you still got time, Joe? I know I never really said how long this was going to be.
I'm not worried about time, except my battery, my battery's low. It just popped up, said I got 15% remaining. So.
All right, well, we'll keep going.
I forgot to check about that.
It pops off, and then I think that's when we'll wrap it up.
That'll work for me.
Argus talk. I'd like to actually get into the Roughnecks. That's something I was been really interested in. Of course, we've got some beauties. That male is absolutely gorgeous. And let's talk a little bit about them. You know, how did you acquire these Roughnecks? How long have you had them? A little bit into that.
The Roughnecks, and actually the Roughnecks, they actually belong to my other partner at Lonnie's Lizards. I just got him here because I guess he just wanted me to do it. They're outside. I own my business here, and the reptiles are here as well, so I can kind of monitor a lot of what's going on, especially with them, you know, being a particular species. But we've had them probably about 2 years now, growing them. They were small, but we've grown them up and everything. And as a matter of fact, 2 weeks ago, she just laid her first cycle of 8 eggs. So they're infertile, but that's a step. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to this cool front coming through, and then hopefully putting them back together and seeing if we can get another lock and actually see if it'll actually take.
Man, that's so awesome.
I
love those guys, man.
Yeah, that was really exciting, especially for a species you're growing them out that long. Something you're aspiring, and all of a sudden you get that first clutch. It must be really cool.
I'm sorry, you cut out. Say that again.
Oh, I was just saying it must be really awesome. You know, a great feeling. Finally getting this collection, growing these babies out, and then getting that first cycle of eggs. Seeing you're on the right track to actually produce this first clutch of Roughnecks.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's it's suspenseful, but it's rewarding at the same time, because it's like we're not quite there yet, but it's like hey, at least we're moving in that right direction. Forward progress. I mean, when it comes to forward progress, anything forward progress, I love it.
Better than going the other way.
Yeah.
It's got to be. I mean, how rewarding does it feel like when you have a clutch with eggs and you see all these guys coming out? I mean, how rewarding does that feel?
It's just absolutely amazing. It's one of those things that just it doesn't get old. It's been a couple years now that I got a couple clutches coming out at least a couple times a year, and it's just and now I'm getting in. Now I've got 3 females, and both my partners have females that are ready to start producing. So I mean, we're gonna have so many coming out, but it doesn't get old. It's seeing them poke their heads out and flick their tongues, sniffing for the first time when they open their eyes and everything. That first 24 hours to 48 hours, sometimes waiting for them to pop out of the egg kind of drives you crazy. But just all it takes is a slit of the egg, and it's like, oh shit, here they come. And it's just you're just constantly in the incubator, looking through the glass, going, is there anything there? It's Christmas for a little kid every single time it happens. It doesn't get old. I mean, you're breathing life. You're creating life. It's cool. It doesn't get any better than that.
I couldn't agree more on that. I mean, I feel like it's a beautiful thing. I've seen some leopard geckos, hatch and whatnot, and it was. I mean, just that little thing was just amazing to see. But for monitors, I have not witnessed that yet or had in my possession like a clutch of my own. But man, I tell you what, the day I do, just because I love monitors so much, like it's definitely, I can't wait to experience it. Put it that way.
Yeah, it is. It's different. Just recently did Bearded Dragons, and I was kind of like, Bearded Dragons or whatever. It was still cool, but it's not the same thing. It's not the same.
Once you get up there to that intelligence level of a monitor,
I
feel like it's something different than bearded dragon. Even like the common stuff, crested geckos, or it's like it's hatch, it's squirming around, you put it in, you're all set. There's something else when it comes to seeing that.
Yeah, because they. I mean, you could see right from that minute coming out of the egg, they're thinking, they're scared, they're it's just super cool. You got to experience it to really understand it, honestly.
It's hopefully next year, maybe 2022. That's what we're shooting for.
Absolutely, that'd be awesome.
So for these guys, for the Argus's personality, for somebody that is now considering, after us talking about Argus monitors, getting one. Once you get them, let's say they've had experience with other monitors and whatnot, let's say maybe Savannah, whatever. Would you say that it's a good monitor to have as like a monitor that you could have on a leash, or like a monitor to have out in your living room all the time? Or is this kind of like are they pretty intelligent on their own thinking? Or is this, what would you recommend to people?
They can be. That's not something I'd ever do. I mean, I even know of people that have Argus monitors that just free roam their house. You're not gonna catch me doing that. I don't want to be barefoot and lose a toe, because they go on a whim, and all of a sudden,
you're not gonna see it coming either. Whoosh.
Yeah, exactly. They're gonna move faster than you. It's just you don't let a dog roam a neighborhood either. You know, there's certain things that, you know, to me that if you actually want to get down to responsible keeping in general, you know, they should have their own cages, everything like that. I mean, I will say, I don't trust any of them near my face at all. You know, you never know. I've had some that were sweet. Hell, my last girlfriend all of a sudden got nabbed on her ear and got her real good. And that was one that was known and still is. She's still super friendly, but that's the only time she's ever bit was just under her ear, just out of nowhere, was just sitting on the shoulder.
I got my ear protectors on. They're gonna clamp down. Yeah, it's just gonna
but you know, I told her the same thing. I was like, I wouldn't have that thing that close to my face, you know. And sure enough, jump, there it was. She had a big old earring on. So, but I mean, and as far as what the best monitors for certain people to get to, they got to figure that out for themselves. That depends on what you want. I mean, you want something big and huge but boring. I shouldn't say boring. They're not boring, but a lot of times they get big and just sit around. Asian water monitor is great. There are a lot of times once
man, Joe is just constantly throwing shade at these water monitors.
I love these
fat bastards. Get an Argus.
But in comparison to an Argus, they're not as, you know, aggressive as far as you know, coming at you and being handled and stuff like that. You know, an Asian water monitor, you got a lot better chance of holding for an amount of period than you do having with an Argus. I mean, Argus isn't going to go on; it's going to sit on your shoulder or anything like that for any amount of period, any amounts of time. So people got to understand what they're actually looking for. If it's something you want to, that's going to pique your interest and you have that much time to go into and, you know, spend with and do with, then yeah, an Argus monitor is great. Something you want to just show off, then yeah, you know, Savannahs, you know, can be one once they're tamed down. I mean, there's quite a few. Quince monitors are another good one. They're in between.
You just got to grow them out of that 2-year flight response that they have. They're not very fun when they're juveniles and neonates. You got to again, that goes back to the confidence. As far as showing them off, I really don't, because there's nothing to show off. Immediately you put a hand in there, scurry away. But I think you said it best earlier when you said I think the best thing with Argus monitors, getting a chair, reading a book, grabbing a beer, and just watching them. I do that all the time. I open up the enclosure. I'm fucking around with my phone, doing my social media stuff, and just hanging out with them, watching. They're going back and forth, moving around. Mainly trying to figure it out. They'll have them climb out and lick my phone, and then immediately hiss at my phone and then walk back. It's always a blast. Really, I guess more of as a display animal than anything, versus that personable sitting on your shoulder. That's not what you're going to get, but
yeah, it's like
for the people that want the Argus one, I feel like they already know that.
Right. Yeah. To me, it's like a fish in a fish tank that you have to still spend time with at the same time, you know, to keep it socialized and everything. But really, it's not for, you know, it's not a teddy bear, it's not a puppy dog, it's never gonna be, you know. So,
like you said, it's the closest thing you're gonna get to a velociraptor.
Yeah. And we don't run around petting dinosaurs, so
yeah, we're not cuddling velociraptors. They made a bunch of movies about that.
Yep.
Exactly.
Blue was cute, but not always the nicest. But Dylan, so from kind of what you've seen at Nerd, what would be, I mean, what would you recommend? What have you seen to make you be like, okay, well, if I was to get a monitor, this is what I'd get?
So just what I would pick for a monitor?
Yeah. And why?
Okay. Like I said earlier, I'd probably go with a Quince or a Dumerals. Dumerals just because they interest me from, I mean, I think they're cool as hell. Their size is awesome. They look awesome. They're behaviorally a little different than a couple of your mainstream monitors, in my opinion. Quinces, again, gorgeous monitor. As Dakota said, skittish as all hell until you work that kink out.
I'm just now getting to the point with my original male where he's finally able, where I can take him out and he's not going to immediately scurry away.
Right. So I'd go with those two just because they're kind of the oddballs that most people wouldn't go with. And I like to have my hands on as much as possible when I have reptiles. So
Oh yeah. I couldn't agree more. I love having my monitors out. I love handling them all the time. All my Savannahs, they're out all the time. From being on the leash.
Positive standpoint, even like I believe Doomerals are crustacean eaters, and they eat a lot of snails. So just that alone is busy.
I did not know that.
And that's got to be cool to see again, even with like, was it caiman lizards? I know they're definitely known to be the snail eaters. And that would just be something that would be wicked awesome. Just sit back, put some snails in there. Nice big old water feature and just hang out with them.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I definitely, that would definitely be something to see. Just kind of watch devour something like that, kind of pick it apart, take its time.
Well, I figured out what video is going to make me YouTube famous. Swimming with my Argus monitors. So I'm going to need a giant indoor pool in the enclosure, and we're just going to take a dip with them and see what happens, folks.
But
I will be wearing wet shoes because, again, the toes, I do want to keep them.
Look, the only way that you're going to get any views on that is if you do it in an American flag Speedo. On, bro. That's it.
Ah, man, is the risk of losing my dong worth the views? That's what I have to ask myself here. They're going to be underwater. They'll be like, oh, is that a pinky? Because it shrinks. It's probably cold water,
Well, it's feeding time, guys. Oh, shit, man. Well, hey, I'm going to wrap this up here. Joe.
I think we've reached that stale point where I'll just stop talking.
Yeah, that's the perfect ending right there.
We'll end it on the
I'm glad we're ending it on dong biting. I think that's the climax for this stream. Hopefully people stayed around for the hour and a half because it definitely was worth it.
Oh, man. Well, hold on. I think I just got an endorsement offer from RedTube.
Time to branch out on some other platforms, fellas.
We just hit a whole new genre, people. We just hit the reptile.
I said this in the last stream. Have you seen, nerds taking over Twitch? There were no reptiles on there. I'm going from Pornhub, guy. Have you seen?
Man.
Like I said, Anaconda with my Anaconda out, destined to get hits.
What? You heard it first. It's coming. It's coming to you live, literally. It's coming. Dakota's going to give it down.
I see what you did there. All right. I think this is a good ending.
Yeah, no kidding.
All right, Joe. Hey, absolutely appreciate your time.
No, thank you, guys.
We would love to have you again. This is definitely a great, info side of it to help people understand about these Arguses and how great they are and, some of the things that kind of go along with care and precautions with these guys. Maybe next time we're able to see some and kind of explore some of those guys. So,
yeah, we already Argus monitors. Are you able to? Do you have the signal out there for that?
I got some here in the shop here. Yeah, to do that. Yeah, we could do that next time. Absolutely.
Awesome. That'd be great.
Sweet.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. I can always bring them from down there to here, anyways, too. So that's no big deal. So.
Not all. It'd be too much of a pain in the ass. I think we're only sitting at like 10 viewers, so we won't make you work too hard.
Sorry, it's gonna be cold pretty soon anyway, so their asses will be down here anyway. So it might be perfect during the winter months. So.
We're gonna see some Argus monitors.
Absolutely.
Awesome. We thank you, Joe, and thank you, Dylan, Dakota. Appreciate your guys' time. And we will catch you on another episode of Tragic Reptiles.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yep.